Hello students, I welcome you all for today's session on real nature of radiation and matter. In fact, in the previous session, we had discussed about threshold frequency, the minimum frequency of incident radiation which may cause photoelectric effect. That's what is called as threshold frequency. So, if the frequency of the incident radiation is greater than threshold frequency, then only photoelectric effect will take place. Similarly, today we will start our discussion with another term known as threshold wavelength. Generally represented by lambda naught. This is the symbol used to represent threshold wavelength. See, you know that for electron emission, the energy of the incident radiation must be greater than or equal to the work function of the metal. E is also given by Hc by lambda. This should be greater than or equal to 5. Or lambda should be less than or equal to Hc by 5. That means the maximum value of the wavelength at which photoelectric effect may occur is Hc by 5 or even less than this. So this maximum value of lambda is what is called as threshold wavelength. So this is the longest wavelength of the incident radiation which may cause photoelectric effect. So threshold wavelength is the longest wavelength of the incident radiation which may cause photoelectric effect. So longest wavelength of incident radiation which may cause photoelectric effect. This is what is called as threshold wavelength. Okay. So for photoelectric effect, lambda, the wavelength of the incident radiation, must be less than lambda naught. Okay. So this you have to bear in mind. Next is we have to look into some of the experimental observations that has been done in support of photoelectric effect. The first one is Hertz observation. It was Heinrich Hertz who confirmed the transverse nature associated with light wave. In fact, he confirmed basically that light wave is an electromagnetic wave. He did a simple experiment to prove this. He considered two metal plates. I'll call them as A and B, and kept them parallel to each other. And also he connected two highly polished metal spheres to these two metal plates with the help of thick copper wires. So he connected highly polished metal spheres. Let me call them as P and Q. And there is a small gap between these two metal spheres. And these two metal spheres are connected to the metal plates A and B with the help of copper wires. He applied a very large voltage between P and Q with the help of what is known as induction coil. One second, I'll change the diagram slightly. I'll write down the induction coil on the other side so that I can write down the detector. Here is the induction coil. So what is the use of connecting this induction coil means? To apply a large voltage between P and Q. There is a small air gap between P and Q. So when large voltage is being applied between P and Q, the air between P and Q gets ionized. So sparks will be produced. When you say sparks are produced, what you mean is the charges are being accelerated between P and Q, and because of which electromagnetic wave will be produced. In fact, he placed a detector at some distance in a perpendicular direction to the plane of the apparatus. The detector consists of two spheres again connected with a wire. So sparks were observed between these two detectors, confirming that transverse electromagnetic wave have reached these detectors. So this was a simple experiment conducted by Henry Church in order to support the electromagnetic wave, the concept of electromagnetic wave as suggested by Clerk Maxwell, to be associated with the whole range of electromagnetic spectrum, including light waves. In fact, in this experiment, Henry Church could measure the wavelength of the electromagnetic waves received as 6 meter. That was the wavelength of the waves received in this experiment. Right. Next is we shall look into the observations made by Halbach in support of photoelectric effect. So again, he considered a gold leaf electroscope. Already we have studied about electroscope in electrostatics chapter. It is electric charges and fields. He, instead of metal knob, he attached a zinc plate to this gold leaf electroscope. He attached a zinc metal plate. The other end of the rod has gold leaves. So now we shall look into the experimental observations conducted by Halbach. First one is a negatively charged zinc plate lost its negativity when incident with UV rays. See, when UV rays were allowed to be incident onto the zinc plate, what happened is initially the zinc plate was taken to be negatively charged zinc plate. The gold leaves would have diverged from each other because of the charges. But when ultraviolet radiation was allowed to be incident onto the zinc plate, it lost its negativity. That means electrons escaped from metal plate, because of which the negative charges on the zinc plate decreased, and hence the gold leaves collapsed. This was the first observation. Second observation was that an uncharged zinc plate became positively charged when incident with UV rays. Uncharged zinc plate became positively charged when incident with UV rays. See, what do you mean by saying that uncharged zinc plate became positively charged? That means, again, this suggests you that the zinc plate lost electrons in the process. Also, the next observation was that a positively charged on the charged zinc plate became more positive when UV radiations were allowed to incident on it. Positive charges on zinc plate increases when UV rays were allowed to be incident on zinc plate. So these were the three observations made by Halvan. First one was a negatively charged zinc plate lost its negativity when incident with UV radiations, telling you that electrons have been ejected because of the ultraviolet radiations from the zinc plate. Second observation says that uncharged zinc plate become positively charged when incident with UV radiation, again suggesting you that when UV radiations were incident onto the uncharged zinc plate, electrons escape from the zinc plate, hence this becomes positively charged. Then positively charged zinc plate gained more positive charges when UV radiations were allowed to be incident on it, telling you that it lost some electrons when UV radiations were incident onto the zinc plate. These were the observations made by Halwak, and in all these three observations, it's very clear that when ultraviolet radiation is incident onto the zinc plate, it loses electrons. Next is, we have to understand about Lenard's observations on photoelectric effect. We will first understand about the experimental setup. Right. See, the experimental setup consists of an evacuated glass chamber. This is the evacuated glass chamber. C is cathode. In fact, this is also called as emitter. A is anode. This is also called as receiver. These two are metal plates. Okay. And cathode is maintained at a negative potential with respect to anode with the help of an external battery. An ammeter is connected in series to record the current, and also you have a voltmeter which helps you in noting down the potential difference that may be applied between cathode and anode. So what were the observations done by Lenard? First observation was that when a potential difference was applied between cathode and anode, no current flows in the circuit. That means when you have not allowed any radiation to be incident onto the cathode and you have just applied a potential difference between cathode and anode, no current was recorded in the ammeter. No current was recorded in the ammeter when a potential difference was applied between C and A, that is cathode and anode, without allowing any incident radiation or any radiation to be incident. This was the first observation. Secondly, when emitter is kept at negative potential, which is kept at negative potential, is exposed to ultraviolet radiations, current begins to flow in the circuit. When UV radiation or when cathode is exposed to UV radiation, current flows in the circuit. Okay, so when some voltage has been applied and when radiations were allowed to, when UV radiations were allowed to be incident onto the cathode, current was recorded in the circuit. See here, this additional window is just to tell you that here you have a quartz window through which you can send ultraviolet radiation, because if you have ordinary glass has an ability of absorbing the ultraviolet radiation. Hence, quartz window will be used here. Okay. Then the next observation: as soon as the UV radiations falling on the emitter is stopped, current flow also stops. Current flow stops as soon as UV radiation falling on cathode is stopped. This was another observation made by Lenard. Then lastly, when frequency of incident radiation when frequency of incident radiation is less than threshold frequency, no current flows in the circuit, suggesting you that no photoelectric effect has occurred. So these are some of the observations made by Lenard. We shall look into them once again. See, this was the experimental setup. A cathode and an anode, both are metal plates. Cathode is called as emitter, anode is also called as receiver. And here you have a window, additional window given in the evacuated glass chamber. This window is a glass window, quartz window, which facilitates the passage of ultraviolet radiation. A voltmeter is connected in parallel. Cathode is connected to the negative terminal of an external power supply. Anode is connected to the positive terminal of an external power supply. An ammeter is connected in series. First observation is no current was recorded in the ammeter when a potential difference was applied between cathode and anode without allowing any radiation to be incident onto the cathode. By just applying voltage, no photoelectric effect was observed. Secondly, when cathode is exposed to ultraviolet radiation, current flows in the circuit. See, after applying some voltage, if we expose cathode to ultraviolet radiation, then current starts flowing in the circuit. Then the next observation was current flow stops as soon as ultraviolet radiation falling on cathode is stopped. Lastly, when frequency of the incident radiation is less than threshold frequency, no current flows in the circuit. Okay, these are the observations made by Lenard. Okay, next is we have to understand about photocurrent. Again, we will consider an experimental setup in order to understand about photocurrent. Okay, so the experimental setup is almost similar to what we had observed in Lenard's observation. So this is cathode, this is anode. This cathode is also called as emitter, anode is called as collector or receiver. Um, Here, through this window, you will allow radiations to be incident onto the cathode. Ammeter records the current flowing in the circuit. See, when light off, some shorter wavelength means of high frequency, is allowed to be incident onto the cathode. Electrons will be emitted. These electrons will travel towards anode. Okay, will travel towards anode. Initially, when no potential difference has been applied between cathode and anode, the emitted electrons would migrate towards anode, and during this process it may so happen that there may be a space charge being created here. Negative space charge will be created in this region, because see, when electrons are migrating here, a negative charge will be created. This negative space charge always opposes the electrons coming behind. So these electrons will be retarded, and only few number of electrons will be reaching the anode, which have enough kinetic energy to overcome this space charge repulsion. Okay. Now, if you apply a positive potential to the anode with respect to the cathode, these electrons will be attracted towards the anode. Now, some electrons will be attracted towards the anode, hence current flows in the circuit. These electrons reaches the anode, then they move through the external circuit, then back to cathode. Now, if I increase the positive potential of anode, more number of electrons will be attracted towards anode, hence the current increases. And if I keep on doing so, at some particular positive potential applied to the anode, all the electrons emitted at an instant from the cathode will be attracted towards the anode. So now the current that is flowing in the circuit will be the maximum, because at that instant all the electrons would have reached the anode and the current in the circuit becomes maximum. That is called as saturation current. That maximum current observed is called as saturation current. That means above that saturation current, once the current has reached its saturation, if you increase the anode potential further, that will be of no use. There will be no increase in the current flowing through the circuit. See, these electrons which are being emitted from the cathode are called as photoelectrons, and the current flowing in the circuit is called as photocurrent. Now, if you plot a graph of photocurrent with respect to the anode potential, you will get a graph of this nature. You can expect a graph of this nature. So this is 0. Let me say here this is anode voltage or potential, and this is photocurrent. You had observed that even when the anode voltage is 0, some electrons would reach the anode because of their initial kinetic energy. So as you increase the anode voltage, more and more number of electrons would reach the anode, and hence the photocurrent increases, reaches a maximum, and then it becomes stagnant. Okay, this is what happens. So this would be the nature of the graph. Initially, even when the anode voltage is 0, the photocurrent is not 0, because some electrons would be flowing through the circuit, and because of the kinetic energy. When you increase the anode voltage, more and more number of electrons starts flowing in the circuit, leading to increase in photocurrent. That's why there is an increase in photocurrent, then it reaches its maximum. That's what we call as saturation current. On the other hand, if the anode is given a negative potential, if anode is given a negative potential, what will happen? If anode is given a negative potential, the electrons will be repelled from reaching the anode. When electrons are repelled from reaching the anode, photocurrent starts decreasing. Naturally, only those electrons which have sufficient kinetic energy to overcome the repulsion would be reaching the anode. So the photocurrent decreases. And if you go on increasing the negative voltage applied to the anode, less and less number of electrons starts reaching the anode, and for a particular negative voltage applied to the anode, no electron would be able to reach the anode, because even the electron having the strongest of the or maximum kinetic energy would be repelled by the negative potential of the anode. So that negative potential of the anode, which is just sufficient to stop the electrons from reaching the anode, is called as stopping potential. See, I'll write here, stopping potential negative potential applied to anode, which is just sufficient to stop electrons from reaching anode. This is what is called as stopping potential or stopping voltage. Okay, this you have to remember, another very important definition. Now, if you plot a graph, I consider plotting a graph by considering again anode potential and photocurrent. So here I will be plotting x-axis anode potential or anode voltage, and y-axis is the photocurrent. When anode voltage is 0, still there will be some photocurrent. See, the nature of the graph of time would be something like this. See, even when the applied voltage is 0, there will be some photocurrent. And as you go to negative region of the applied voltage, or when the anode voltage is made negative, for a particular negative anode voltage, photocurrent becomes 0. This is what is called as stopping potential. And here you can observe the current has reached its saturation. This is called as saturation current. This is saturation current. Okay, right. See, stopping potential depends upon first one, wavelength of light used. And also the work function of the metal. It does not depend on the intensity of the light used. Okay, right. What have we discussed till now in this session? See, we first learnt about threshold wavelength, the longest wavelength of the incident radiation which may cause photoelectric effect. We wrote down the expression as Hc by pi. Then we learnt about the observations made by Heinrich Hertz and Hallmark in support of photoelectric effect. Also the Lenard's observations. Then few things regarding photocurrent. So we learned about the experimental observations in photoelectric effect, and also a very important term, stopping potential, the negative potential applied to anode, which is just sufficient to stop the electrons from reaching the anode. Even we learnt about the graph, right? I'll stop here. In the next session, we will continue our discussion with two more graphs regarding this stopping potential, frequency and intensity, and also about loss of photoelectric effect. Thank you.